Jack wiped his hands on a rag, squinting at the alien armor lying before him. It was unlike anything he had ever worked on in his life. The metal plates shimmered with colors that shifted in the light, glowing veins running through them like tiny streams of liquid energy. The alloy was impossibly strong yet strangely flexible, and the way it connected to the wearer, it was more than technology. It was almost alive. He had fixed plenty of machines, but this was different. He glanced nervously at the crowd gathering around the large chamber. Alien spectators in ceremonial robes murmured among themselves, their voices low and melodic. He didn't understand their language, but he could feel their excitement. Today was important. Today, Lady Vera, the most celebrated warrior of the Tanari clan, was returning from a victorious battle. Her armor, though magnificent, had been damaged in combat. Jack had never been involved in such high-profile work. He was just an engineer, good with his hands, patient with machines, calm under pressure. Usually he fixed minor repairs for the space station or assisted with mechanical drones. But somehow he had been dragged into this by his supervisor, a gruff human named Harris who had little patience for politeness. "You got this, Jack?" Harris had barked earlier. "Don't mess up. That's not just armor. It's the symbol of their greatest warrior. One wrong move and—" He trailed off, but Jack knew what it meant. One wrong move and he would be the laughingstock of every alien dignitary on this station. Now, kneeling before Lady Vera, Jack tried to steady his breathing. She stood there like a statue, her form elegant yet imposing. Even wounded, she radiated strength. Her presence alone commanded attention. The crowd parted slightly around her, giving her space, as if she were a force of nature rather than just another person. Jack's fingers worked carefully, adjusting, tiny connectors that linked the glowing filaments to the plates. Each movement required precision. A single mistake could trigger defensive protocols that might hurt him or worse, damage the armor beyond repair. He concentrated on his work, blocking out the murmurs of the crowd and the pressure that pressed down on him. "Careful," he muttered to himself. "Slow, careful." Vera said nothing. She simply watched him. Her large violet eyes followed his every movement, piercing yet unreadable. Jack couldn't tell if she approved or was merely observing. That gaze made him even more nervous. He had never felt so exposed in his life, yet he had never felt such an odd calm either. Minutes passed like hours. His fingers ached and sweat dripped down his forehead. The alien technology was unlike anything human engineers had ever seen. It was a mixture of biological materials and metal alloys, alive in its own strange way. He had to be careful, gentle, and precise, all at once. Finally, with a faint click, the last piece slid into place. The armor shimmered and hummed, responding to its wearer as if waking from a deep sleep. Jack leaned back, rubbing his sore hands, and looked up at Vera. For a moment she said nothing. Then slowly she knelt before him. The chamber went silent. Even the murmurs of the crowd seemed to vanish. Jack blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "You are my mate," she said, her voice low but clear. It was not a question. It was a declaration. Jack froze. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Mate? Her mate? Him? The words felt unreal, almost impossible. He had been fixing her armor for less than an hour, and now he was her mate? He glanced at the crowd, half expecting them to laugh, to correct the mistake, to tell him it was some bizarre alien joke. But no one moved. No one said a word. Then the crowd erupted. A wave of cheers, claps, and whistles filled the chamber. Aliens of all shapes and sizes raised their hands in celebration. Some stomped on the floor. Others made melodic sounds that resonated like music. Jack was overwhelmed. He had never experienced anything like this in his life. Vera remained kneeling before him, her expression calm, but her eyes softening. Jack could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him. This was not just a ceremonial declaration. This was a bond recognized by an entire culture. Every eye in the chamber was on him, and yet all he could do was stare, trying to process what had just happened. Why? Me? Jack finally managed to ask, his voice trembling slightly. Vera's lips curved into a small smile. Because you are steady. Because you see what others do not. Because you do not falter when faced with something unknown. Humans rarely have such qualities. Jack swallowed hard. He had always considered himself ordinary. He fixed things, yes, but he had never thought of himself as special. And yet, here was one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy, declaring him her mate in front of hundreds of witnesses. The crowd continued to cheer, waving ceremonial banners and throwing flowers in the air. Jack looked down at his hands, smeared, with grease and sweat, feeling completely out of place. And yet, in some strange way, he also felt proud. Not for himself exactly, but because someone like Lady Vera saw value in him. One of her advisors stepped forward, bowing low. "Master Jack," the alien said in careful English, "you are now recognized as a mate. You must understand our customs, our rituals, and our responsibilities. This is not merely symbolic. It is an honor, and it carries weight." Jack nodded slowly, though he was still in shock. Honor, weight, responsibilities. He had no idea what any of that truly meant in their culture, but he could feel that this was serious. He was no longer just an engineer on a space station. He was part of something far bigger. Vera stood gracefully, extending a hand to help him up. He took it, still trembling slightly. Their hands met, and a strange warmth spread through him. It was not romantic or passionate. It was a sense of connection, mutual respect, and trust. The entire chamber seemed to hum around them, the energy of the moment almost tangible. As the crowd began to disperse, whispers and curious glances followed Jack. Some aliens were skeptical. Some were amazed. Some simply shook their heads, muttering about how unusual it was for a human to be chosen. But Jack didn't care. His focus was on Vera, on understanding what this bond meant, and on preparing himself for whatever came next. For the first time in his life, Jack realized that being human, being clever, patient, and brave, could be more than enough. It could inspire respect, trust, and even admiration in beings far more advanced than himself. And maybe, just maybe, it could change the way they saw humans entirely. Vera led him to a quiet corner of the chamber, away from the remaining spectators. "There is much to learn," she said simply. "Much to understand. You will train with me, learn our customs, and stand beside me when the time comes. You must be ready. Being my mate is not just a title, it is a responsibility." Jack nodded, still awed but determined. He had faced challenges before, fixed impossible machines, survived tense situations, but nothing like this. Nothing that combined honor, courage, and the weight of an entire culture looking at him with hope. That night, as he lay in his small quarters aboard the station, Jack could not stop thinking about the events of the day. He remembered the shimmer of Vera's armor, the sound of the crowd cheering, the feeling of her hand in his. He wondered if he was truly ready for what lay ahead. But deep down, he knew one thing. Humans had a way of surprising others, even in worlds far beyond their own. And somehow, in this strange and magnificent galaxy, Jack felt that he had found his place. Not through conquest or power, but through skill, patience, and a courage that even he had not known he possessed. He drifted off to sleep that night with one thought in his mind. Tomorrow, the real challenge would begin. And for the first time in his life, he felt ready to face it. Not just as an engineer, but as the mate of the greatest warrior he had ever met. The next morning, Jack awoke to the soft hum of the space station, sunlight filtering through the wide observation windows. He stretched, still feeling the strange mix of pride and nervousness from the previous day. Being called the mate of Lady Vera had turned his life upside down in an instant. Yet as he looked out at the endless stars, he realized that this was only the beginning. Vera was waiting for him in the training hall, her posture commanding even as she adjusted the repaired armor. The hall was massive, with high ceilings, alien markings etched into the walls, and holographic projectors that displayed battle strategies in mid-air. Jack's eyes widened. He had trained humans before, but this was on another level. The technology, the scale, and the intensity of it all made his palms sweat. "Are you ready?" Vera asked, her voice steady, betraying no emotion. Jack nodded, swallowing hard. I think so." She raised an eyebrow but said nothing, simply gesturing for him to follow. Their training began with simple exercises, movements, stances, and the handling of alien weapons. Jack quickly realized that this was not just physical training. Each motion, each stance had meaning, precision, and purpose. The aliens had mastered the art of efficiency in battle, and he had to catch up fast. At first, he stumbled. His human reflexes were different, his muscles not accustomed to the alien techniques. Vera corrected him gently but firmly, demonstrating the motions with fluid grace. Jack watched, mimicking her movements, and slowly, bit by bit, his body adjusted. "You are improving," Vera said after a long session, her tone almost approving. "Humans have potential, but your mind must match your body. Strategy is as important as strength." Jack nodded, exhausted but determined. He had never been praised like this by someone so formidable. It wasn't just about skill, it was recognition, and it motivated him to push harder. Over the following days, their bond grew stronger. Vera began to teach him the language and customs of her people, explaining the intricacies of honor, respect, and the importance of a mate in their culture. Jack listened intently, taking notes, asking questions, and slowly piecing together a culture that was vastly different from anything he had known. The concept of mateship was more complex than he expected. It was not just about companionship. It was about trust, mutual protection, and loyalty that extended beyond the individual to the entire clan. Jack realized that being Vera's mate meant he was now a representative of both humans and Tanari warriors. The responsibility weighed heavily on him, but he accepted it with quiet resolve. One evening, while they trained with holographic simulations of battlefield scenarios, a group of other Tanari warriors entered the hall. Their expressions ranged from curiosity to skepticism. Jack felt their eyes on him, analyzing, judging. Some whispered in their melodic language, their tone sharp and questioning. Vera stood tall beside him. "These are my comrades," she said. "They will test you not as an enemy, but as a potential mate of honor. Show them your worth." Jack took a deep breath. He could feel the tension in the room, the weight of expectation pressing on his shoulders. He raised his hands, focusing on the task at hand, and prepared to demonstrate his skill, adaptability, and human ingenuity. The tests were intense. They involved agility courses, combat simulations, and problem-solving under pressure. Jack had never faced anything like this. Every move required precision, quick thinking, and awareness of multiple variables. He fell several times, misjudged distances, and struggled with the alien weapons at first, but he refused to give up. Each time he made a mistake, Vera guided him with patience, her eyes encouraging him silently. Slowly, he began to excel. His human ingenuity allowed him to find solutions the Tanari warriors had not considered, adapting strategies on the fly. By the end of the session, even the skeptical warriors nodded in acknowledgement. They had seen what Vera had seen, a human capable of courage, cleverness, and honor. Word of his abilities began to spread throughout the station. Other aliens came to watch, curious about the human who had become the mate of Lady Vera. Some were impressed, others doubtful, but all were intrigued. Jack realized that he was no longer just fixing armor. He was now part of a larger story, a symbol of the potential of humanity. Vera took him aside one afternoon, as the twin suns of the planet below set in brilliant orange and purple hues. "You have done well," she said softly. "But there is more to learn. You must understand the traditions of my people fully. Soon there will be a ceremonial recognition of our mateship. All eyes will be on you, Jack. You must be ready." Jack nodded. "I will do my best." He meant it. He had faced many challenges in his life, but this was different. This was about honor, courage, and proving that a human could stand among the greatest warriors of the galaxy. The day of the ceremonial recognition arrived. The space station's central chamber was filled with warriors, dignitaries, and spectators from various species. The atmosphere was electric, buzzing with anticipation. Jack's heart raced as he followed Vera to the center of the chamber. A large holographic display projected their images for everyone to see. Vera raised her hand, signaling silence. The murmurs ceased, and all attention focused on the two of them. Jack could feel the weight of every gaze, the collective expectation of the alien audience. Vera spoke first. Her voice carried across the chamber, clear and commanding. "Today we recognize the bond between my mate and me. This is a human, Jack, who has proven himself worthy not just in skill, but in courage, honor, and understanding. He stands with me as an equal, as my mate, and as a symbol of unity between our peoples." Jack stepped forward, trying to remain composed. The crowd erupted into cheers, applause, and melodic songs of celebration. Some warriors stomped their feet, others waved banners, and a few threw small ceremonial lights that floated in the air like fireflies. The energy was overwhelming yet exhilarating. Jack realized something profound. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. Many species saw them as weak, unpredictable, or unremarkable. But here, among the Tanari warriors, he had proven that courage, intelligence, and integrity mattered more than size, strength, or appearance. Humanity had value. Humanity had honor. Humanity could inspire respect even in the most advanced civilizations. Vera extended her hand to him once more. Jack took it, feeling a sense of pride and connection that words could not describe. This was no longer just about recognition. This was a bond of trust, respect, and mutual support. He understood now that being her mate was not a title to fear. It was a responsibility to embrace, a chance to show what humans could achieve when they acted with integrity and courage. The crowd continued to cheer as Jack and Vera stood together side by side. He glanced around, seeing the admiration in some faces, the curiosity in others, and the acceptance in those who had doubted him at first. For the first time, he felt that humans truly had a place among the stars, capable of bridging worlds through skill, courage, and the choices they made. Later, as the chamber emptied and the celebrations wound down, Vera spoke quietly to Jack. "You have done more than I could have hoped. You have proven that humans are strong in ways others cannot always see. Together we will face what comes next as partners, as mates, and as equals." Jack smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. He had come a long way from simply fixing armor. He had stepped into a role he never imagined, and in doing so he had changed the way an entire species saw humans. He realized that heroism did not always come from weapons or battles. Sometimes it came from patience, skill, courage, and the willingness to rise to the occasion when it mattered most. That night, as Jack and Vera looked out over the stars from the station balcony, he felt a deep sense of belonging. He was no longer just an engineer. He was part of something greater, a story of honor, unity, and human potential. He had proven that even in a galaxy of unimaginable power and complexity, a human could stand tall not by might alone, but by heart, intelligence, and integrity. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Jack knew that this was only the beginning of a remarkable journey. Together, he and Vera would face challenges, explore worlds, and shape the future in ways that no one could have predicted. But for now, he allowed himself a quiet moment of pride and awe. He had been called a mate, celebrated by a galaxy of witnesses, and in that recognition he had discovered what it truly meant to be human.